The fluorescent lights of St. Catherine's Hospital hummed overhead as Dr. Marcus Holloway held the electric clippers inches from Nurse Amara Bennett's face. His lips curled into something between a smile and a sneer. "Hold still," he said, loud enough for the entire nurses' station to hear. "Your hair's a health violation, Hospital Policy, Section 4.2. Amara's hands trembled at her sides. Her natural hair, thick, beautiful coils she'd worn in a neat bun for 3 years without a single complaint, now labeled a contamination risk by a man who'd arrived at the hospital only 6 months ago. "Dr. Holloway, please," her voice cracked. "This is my hair, you can't just—" "I can, and I will." He pressed the clippers closer. The buzzing filled the silence like a swarm of angry wasps. "Unless you'd prefer to clean out your locker right now." Around them, nurses froze mid-step. Phones appeared in hands. A young resident whispered, "Someone should stop this," but no one moved. The red recording dots multiplied like a spreading disease. Dr. Holloway's Rolex caught the light as he reached for her shoulder, forcing her into a chair. "This is what happens," he announced to the growing crowd, "when people think the rules don't apply to them. If you think this is shocking already, wait until you hear the twist. Hit subscribe now so you don't miss it." Amara Bennett had never been the type to cause trouble. For the past 3 years, she'd been the nurse other nurses called when a patient was circling the drain at 3 a.m. The one who stayed late without logging overtime, who remembered birthdays, who'd once talked a suicidal teenager off a metaphorical ledge with nothing but patience and a pack of Starburst. She'd worked 70-hour weeks for the last 4 months, double shifts, holidays, weekends, all to cover her mother's experimental MS treatment that insurance wouldn't touch. The kind of exhaustion that lived in your bones, that turned your smile into something you had to remember to put on. Dr. Marcus Holloway had arrived in January with a reputation from Johns Hopkins and an ego that filled rooms before he did. He'd made his disdain for the nursing staff clear from day one, referring to them as assistants, ignoring their clinical observations, once telling a 20-year veteran to stay in her lane. But Amara had been different, quiet, careful. She'd avoided him when possible, complied when necessary. Until this morning, when she'd questioned his medication dosage for a pediatric patient, in private by protocol, the way she'd been trained. He'd called it insubordination. Now 4 hours later, she was in this chair. "Dr. Holloway, this is assault." Amara's voice rose as she tried to stand, his hand pressed down on her shoulder harder now. "Sit down." His voice dropped to something cold and clinical. "Or security will escort you out in handcuffs for refusing to comply with hospital safety standards." The phones multiplied. Somewhere someone was already livestreaming. "Oh my God, is this real?" a voice whispered off camera. "St. Catherine's Hospital, anybody recognize her?" Another typed in real time, the comment appearing on a screen held too close. Amara's breath came in short bursts, her vision blurred at the edges, not from tears but from the sheer impossibility of what was happening. She'd read about moments like this, watched videos, never imagined she'd be the woman in the chair. "Please," she said once more, and hated how small her voice sounded. Dr. Holloway activated the clippers. The buzz became a roar. "This is happening in 2025, a comment thread exploded on someone's phone screen. "Where's HR, where's security?" A young nurse named Sophia finally stepped forward. "Dr. Holloway, I don't think." "Then don't think, Ms. Rodriguez, do your job." He didn't even look at her. The first pass of the clippers cut through Amara's coils like a violation made tangible. Hair fell to the sterile white floor in dark clouds. Someone gasped. The cameras kept rolling. If this part has you on edge, hit the like button right now. It lets us know you want more stories like this. Amara closed her eyes, retreating somewhere inside herself where the humiliation couldn't reach. Her fingers found the small platinum pin attached to her badge lanyard, a caduceus wrapped in olive branches, engraved with letters too small for most people to notice. IAMSA. International Association of Military Surgeons Auxiliary. A gift from her father on her nursing school graduation day 7 years ago. She'd worn it every single shift since. Dr. Holloway didn't see it. He was too busy performing for his audience, making another pass with the clippers, narrating his own righteousness. Professionalism isn't optional, he declared. Standards exist for a reason. More hair fell. Amara's phone buzzed in her pocket once, twice, 3 times in rapid succession. She felt it but couldn't reach it, couldn't move, couldn't do anything but sit and endure. On the 5th buzz, the phone's screen lit up enough to cast a glow through the thin fabric of her scrubs. Incoming call, Dad 3. Then, text message, Dad. Sweetheart, I'm 10 minutes out, can't wait to surprise you for lunch. Been too long since I visited your hospital, so proud of you. The clippers made another pass. Sophia, still frozen nearby, caught a glimpse of Amara's phone screen. Her eyes widened. She opened her mouth, then closed it, looking between Amara's face and something she'd just processed. Dr. Holloway, Sophia said carefully, maybe we should. We should nothing, Ms. Rodriguez. But Sophia had gone pale. She'd seen the pin, she'd seen the text. And she'd just remembered something from the hospital newsletter 3 weeks ago. St. Catherine's welcomes advisory visit from Surgeon General. The date listed, today. Dr. Holloway raised the clippers for another pass, completely oblivious. Amara's phone buzzed again. Text message, Dad. Parking now, see you in 5. In the distance, down the sterile hallway, elevator doors chimed open. The sound of approaching footsteps, multiple pairs, the distinctive rhythm of military dress shoes against linoleum echoed through the corridor. Sophia's hand flew to her mouth. Dr. Holloway noticed nothing, already lining up the clippers for the final cut that would leave Amara completely shorn. Almost done, he said with satisfaction. See how easy it is when you just comply. The footsteps grew louder. Closer. Amara opened her eyes, and for the first time since this nightmare began, something resembling a smile touched the corner of her lips. You should probably stop now, she whispered. Excuse me, Dr. Holloway leaned closer, condescension dripping from every syllable. Did you just tell me what to? Attention. The voice that rang out from the end of the hallway wasn't loud, it didn't need to be. It carried the kind of authority that made everyone in a 50-foot radius snap to attention before their conscious minds processed why. Dr. Holloway's hand froze midair, clippers still buzzing. Every phone stayed up, now recording something completely different. Amara finally turned her head toward the approaching footsteps, toward the voice she'd known since birth, toward the inevitable reckoning about to unfold. And everything, every assumption, every power dynamic, every ounce of Dr. Marcus Holloway's confidence was about to shatter. Dr. Holloway turned slowly, the clippers still buzzing in his hand like a dying insect. The man standing at the end of the hallway wore a Navy service uniform, dress blues, 4 stars gleaming on each shoulder board. Behind him, 3 aides in crisp uniforms, 2 hospital administrators and the hospital's chief of staff, Dr. Patricia Chen, whose face had gone the color of old parchment. Vice Admiral Dr. James Bennett, 19th Surgeon General of the United States, stood perfectly still. His eyes moved from his daughter, half her hair shorn away, sitting in a chair like a prisoner, to the man holding the clippers, to the phones recording everything, then back to Amara. The silence stretched like a wire pulled to breaking. Amara, his voice was quieter now, controlled in the way only military precision could achieve, but underneath it something volcanic was building. She stood slowly, instinctively reaching up to touch what remained of her hair, then stopping herself, letting him see all of it. Hi, Dad. Those 2 words detonated in the space between them. Dr. Holloway's face cycled through confusion, disbelief, then a dawning horror that started in his eyes and spread like poison through his entire body. The clippers slipped from his hand, clattering against the floor, finally silent. Surgeon General, he stammered. Admiral Bennett didn't acknowledge him. He walked forward with measured steps, his eyes never leaving his daughter's face. When he reached her, he removed his service cap and placed it gently on the nearby counter. Then he did something that made every phone in the room zoom in closer. He reached out and touched the ragged edges of her hair with a father's tenderness, his jaw working as he fought to maintain composure. Who did this? His voice was barely above a whisper, but it carried the weight of command that had directed military medical operations across 3 continents. Amara's eyes glistened, but her voice stayed steady. Dr. Marcus Holloway, he said my natural hair was a health violation, that I was refusing to comply with hospital standards. Admiral Bennett finally turned to face Dr. Holloway. He didn't raise his voice, didn't need to. Dr. Holloway, each syllable was precisely articulated. Are you aware that my daughter has been a registered nurse at this facility for 3 years with zero, and I mean zero, safety violations? Sir, I was enforcing. Are you aware, the Admiral continued as if Holloway hadn't spoken, that she was awarded the Presidential Volunteer Service Award last year for her work with underserved pediatric populations? Dr. Chen stepped forward, her clipboard trembling in her hands. Admiral Bennett, I assure you we had no knowledge. He raised one hand, she stopped immediately. Dr. Chen, with respect, your knowledge or lack thereof is precisely the problem. My daughter's qualifications, her family connections, her awards, none of that should matter. What matters is that a medical professional just committed assault, he gestured to the hair on the floor, in a hospital corridor while multiple witnesses stood by and filmed it for entertainment. Sophia, the young nurse who'd tried to intervene, spoke up suddenly, her voice shaking but clear. Sir, he forced her into the chair. She said no multiple times. I tried to stop him, but he... What's your name? Admiral Bennett asked. Sophia Rodriguez, sir. Thank you for your courage, Nurse Rodriguez. He nodded to one of his aides, who immediately began taking notes. Your statement will be part of the official inquiry. Dr. Holloway's face had gone from white to gray. This is a misunderstanding. I was simply... You were simply what? The Admiral's voice dropped to something dangerous. Enforcing a policy that doesn't exist, or enforcing a racist standard that you would never apply to someone who looks like you. The phones captured every word. The livestream viewers multiplied, 500, 1,000, 5,000. I'm not, I would never, Holloway's hands shook. Your Rolex is worth more than most nurses here make in 6 months, Admiral Bennett said quietly. Your credentials say Johns Hopkins. Your evaluations, which I had pulled during my walk from the parking lot, show a pattern of complaints from nursing staff, 17 in 6 months. All dismissed, 12 of those complaints from women of color. Dr. Chen's clipboard clattered to the floor. How did you? She started. I'm the Surgeon General, Dr. Chen. When I visit a facility, I do my homework. He turned back to his daughter. Amara, do you wish to press charges? The entire hallway held its breath. Amara looked at Dr. Holloway, really looked at him, saw him not as the authority figure who'd humiliated her but as something smaller, something pitiful. No, she said finally, but I want reforms, real ones. Admiral Bennett nodded slowly, a ghost of a smile touching his lips. Pride. Then, reforms you'll have. He turned to Dr. Chen. As of this moment, St. Catherine's Hospital is under federal review for workplace discrimination and hostile work environment violations. That review begins today. Admiral, please, Dr. Chen began. Dr. Chen, you're not the enemy here, but your systems failed. They failed my daughter and they've failed others. He gestured to Sophia and the other nurses watching. This ends now. He turned to address the growing crowd, speaking not to them but to the cameras, knowing exactly what he was doing. To everyone watching this, what happened here today happens in hospitals, schools, and workplaces across this country every single day. People in positions of power abuse that power because they believe there will be no consequences. They target those they perceive as vulnerable, as beneath them, as unable to fight back. One of his aides handed him a folder. He opened it. Dr. Marcus Holloway, as of this moment, your medical privileges at this facility are suspended pending investigation. The American Medical Association will be notified. The State Medical Board will be notified. And every single complaint that was dismissed or ignored will be reopened and thoroughly reviewed. Holloway's knees actually buckled. One of the aides steadied him, not out of kindness but out of procedure. But what about due process? Holloway managed. Due process? Admiral Bennett's eyebrow raised. Did you offer my daughter due process before you put clippers to her head? Did you consult HR? Did you document your concerns through proper channels? Or did you simply decide that you had the power and she didn't and that was enough? Silence. That's what I thought. Dr. Chen found her voice stronger now. Admiral Bennett, we will cooperate fully with the investigation. And effective immediately, I'm implementing mandatory bias training for all staff, establishing an anonymous complaint hotline, and creating an oversight committee that includes nursing representatives with real authority, not advisory roles. Good start, the Admiral said, but not enough. I want quarterly audits. I want transparent reporting of complaints, and I want every policy that can be weaponized for discrimination reviewed and revised. He looked directly at the cameras now, at the thousands watching in real time. To the nursing staff who stood by, I understand fear, I understand power dynamics, but silence enables injustice. Next time, and God help us, there will be a next time somewhere. I want one of you to do what Nurse Rodriguez did, speak up, risk discomfort, because that discomfort is nothing compared to what victims endure in your silence. The comment sections exploded. He's right. I watched harassment happen at my job and said nothing, never again. This is what accountability looks like. Within 20 minutes, Hash was trending nationally. News vans were pulling into the parking lot. The hospital's board of directors was convening an emergency meeting. And Dr. Marcus Holloway was being escorted out by security, his distinguished career reduced to a cautionary tale captured in 4K resolution. An hour later, after the cameras had been ushered away and statements had been taken, Admiral Bennett sat with his daughter in an empty conference room. He'd removed his uniform jacket. She'd changed out of her scrubs. Between them sat a bag from the hospital cafeteria, 2 coffees, a muffin neither of them would eat. You could have told me who your father was, he said softly, before it got that far. Amara shook her head, touching the uneven patches of her hair. If I had, it would have been about you, about protecting me because of whose daughter I am, but what about the nurses who don't have a 4-star admiral for a father? What about Sophia or the others who have filed complaints that got buried? He reached across the table and took her hand. You're right, you were right to wait. You turned humiliation into reform. That takes a different kind of courage than anything I've ever done in uniform. I'm going to look ridiculous until this grows back, she said, attempting a smile. You look like someone who refused to let shame silence her. He squeezed her hand. And for what it's worth, your mother had a buzz cut when I met her, made her eyes stand out, yours do too. Amora laughed, really laughed, for the first time in hours. Outside the window, they could see news crews setting up. Inside her pocket, her phone buzzed with messages of support from colleagues, from nursing associations, from strangers who'd watched her story unfold in real time. Tomorrow, St. Catherine's would announce policy changes. By the end of the week, 3 other hospitals would proactively review their own complaint procedures. Within a month, a national conversation about workplace harassment in healthcare settings would lead to federal guidelines. But tonight, in this quiet room, Amara Bennett simply sat with her father and processed what it meant to have survived something that should never have happened in the first place. You didn't seek revenge, her father said eventually. You could have destroyed him publicly. God knows I wanted to. Revenge would have been easy, Amara replied. But it wouldn't have changed anything for the next person. Real power isn't in punishing one doctor, it's in changing the system that gave him permission to think he could do this at all. Admiral Bennett smiled, the kind of smile that held both pride and pain. When did you get so wise? Around the time someone tried to shave my head in a hospital corridor, she said dryly. They sat in comfortable silence as the sun set through the conference room windows, casting long shadows across the table. Outside, the world was changing, slowly, imperfectly, but unmistakably changing. Because one woman had refused to let humiliation become silence. And sometimes, that's exactly how revolutions begin. Have you ever witnessed injustice and stayed silent, or found the courage to speak up when it mattered most? Share your story in the comments. Your voice might be the change someone else needs to hear. And if this story moved you, hit subscribe so you never miss stories of quiet strength defeating loud injustice. Because these aren't just stories, they're reminders that dignity can't be stolen, only given away. And some people refuse to give it away no matter the cost.